Welcome everybody. It is Wednesday, July 27th, and I'm speaking to you from outside the California State Senate chambers in our bi-weekly blog. We are on recess right now, but I wanted to start here and point out Earl Warren's portrait behind me. Earl Warren was, until Governor Jerry Brown, the only person in the history of California to serve 3 terms as governor of the state of California. He was very popular when he was elected, was actually nominated by both Republicans and Democrats, but he was a registered Republican. He went on to be one of the greatest Chief Justices of the U.S. Supreme Court, wrote the majority opinion, actually it was a unanimous opinion, of the very famous one about Brown versus the Board of Education, desegregating public schools in the United States. An amazing human being from the East Bay, from Alameda. So he sits outside, his portrait stands outside of the chambers, and we're going to walk inside now, give you a brief tour of where we are normally in session. Now right now, we're not in session. This is only the second time in the 5 years that I've been in the legislature where I've actually had a break for summer recess. During that time, I'm in the district, working almost all the time, but I am taking a little time for myself. It's good for all of us. But I am here at least one day a week during the interim. And today I just want to talk briefly about what's going on in the federal government, what's happened in our deliberations, and one of the reasons why we have passed a budget and we have break right now. Right now, the United States Senate and House of Representatives is negotiating with President Obama to expand the debt limit, the debt cap on federal spending. Very important for all of us. We'll have the impact of raising interest rates if we don't do it, and is a great threat to the economy of this country and the world. But I put that in the context of our struggles in California, and there have been enormous struggles to get a budget passed on time. Prop 25 allowed us to pass a budget with a simple majority, although not to raise revenue, and we were able to do that. We made huge cuts to our general fund budget, made $12 billion worth of cuts in March, many of it in, as I've mentioned to you before, in the budget subcommittee that I am chair of, budget subcommittee number 3 of the California State Senate, deals with health and human services. Tough cuts that are just starting to be implemented to the most frail and vulnerable Californians that none of us were happy to do. But I say that in the context of what's happening in the federal government and what's happened here and will continue to be a struggle for us for a few years, both locally, at a state level, and nationally, is how best do we reach a consensus in a political environment that's very divisive. As somebody who is a former Republican, who is a great admirer of Governor and Chief Justice Earl Warren, a time when people on both sides of the aisle, Republicans and Democrats, seem to be able to come to a compromise. Jefferson famously said, as I've mentioned many times, that to be an American politician, this was at the founding of this country, required the art of compromise. So we seem to be in this place, both here in Sacramento, although we've got past it just recently here in Sacramento, in a place in our culture where we can't seem to reach compromise. Behind me in the Senate chambers, which I'm proud to be one of 40 members of the California State Senate, is in Latin inscribed a reminder to us that it's the duty of the Senate to protect the liberty of individual Californians. And I think of that quote, and I think of Earl Warren in the spirit of, as much as I don't like the cuts we've made, we made them. We made them because we felt like we had to as Democrats, but more importantly as Californians and Americans. So I hope all of us realize that it's much more important to future generations that we leave a legacy as Americans and Californians than just as Democrats and Republicans. And I have very strong feelings about what's happened in my former party, about how it's become more polarized. But in general, the whole atmosphere is too polarized and too lacking in the spirit of, I believe, Earl Warren, and the spirit that people who have served in this chambers and in the Congress in Washington have left us a legacy of compromise, of working for the greater good. So hopefully the next time I hear from you, there'll be better news from Washington, just as there has been from Sacramento. And until then, hope you feel free to reach out to us either in the district office in Walnut Creek or here in Sacramento if you have any opinions of your own or any kind of communication. Thanks. Have a great summer.